Hello, how you doing? My name is Butler Benote the third. I am a former running back from the Ohio State University that hails from the great city of St. Louis, Missouri, the Gateway Arch City, and just happy to be here on the show today. And so, just telling you, going to tell you a little bit about myself and my story.
Okay. Now, I guess the first question is, how do you get from St. Louis to Ohio?
That's a great question. Coming from St. Louis, we pretty much grew up in Big A country because now ESPN is so broad and so national. You get a chance to see everybody. When I was coming from St. Louis, it was just regional, so I only really had the opportunity to really see Midwest football, particularly Big A, which was Nebraska, Oklahoma, and I got a chance to see the team up north and Notre Dame in Iowa. And so I didn't really know a whole lot about Ohio State, but it was the guy, Bobby Turner, the running back coach, who now is still coaching in the NFL, has coached some great guys in the NFL. And he was my recruiter, and he came to my house and actually told me about Ohio State. And it was really kind of the first time that I knew a little bit about Ohio State because, again, growing up in St. Louis in the Midwest, I really didn't have a whole lot of exposure. But I do have some recollection because I remember having a picture of Ohio State on my wall, and the only thing I knew about them is that they wore red Nikes in the Cotton Bowl, and that's the only thing I knew. And I had a picture of Carlos Snow on my
Hmm.
wall as well, and so that was really the extent of it. And so once Coach Turner came in to offer me a scholarship to Ohio State, I was kind of hesitant because I didn't know a whole lot, and so I told him I'd think about it. And then my uncle heavily persuaded me to make sure that I made one of my first five official visits to Ohio State. And once I got there, I mean, it was almost overwhelmed because I was so really surprised because I didn't have any, and I was a diehard Nebraska fan, and I just knew I was going to go to Nebraska. Had I been given the opportunity, I made them one of my first visits. And so once I left Nebraska and was kind of disappointed at what I saw because coming from the city of St. Louis, St.
Right.
Louis is a city. And so when I went to Nebraska, I was kind of like, man, looking around like this is it. Like, I mean, I saw the downtown, the stadium, a power pollution plant in one scene, and then a farm off in the distance. So, and I'm like, man, there's no way I can come to school here because I just felt like I would have been homesick. And my very next visit was Columbus, and so from the moment I got off the plane to the ride from the airport to the campus was a huge difference because I realized it was a city. And so once I got there, I mean, I just kind of fell in love with the whole atmosphere, the culture. They took me to a class. I wanted to actually get a chance to go see what classes were like. They took me to a class, and once I saw the facilities, I was like, oh my God, like this is like football heaven.
Right.
And later that evening, they dropped me off with the players, and I mean, the rest is history. It's like once they dropped me off with the players, I was sold. I actually called my mom like that Friday night and on a payphone from the Ohio Union. I'll never forget it, and called her collect and told her I'm coming to Ohio State. So it didn't take long. It wasn't even 24 hours, and I was convinced that I was going from St. Louis all the way to Columbus, Ohio.
Okay. So when they dropped you off with the players, who did they drop you off with? If you can remember any of the guys who were with you.
Yeah, my host was William Houston, the fullback that
Okay.
was from Dayton, Ohio, and but he was in anything about Ohio State, the towers, they were kind of in the towers as freshmen because they were freshmen at the time, and when they dropped me off with them, I got a chance to sit with them and have dinner at the training table, and just the spread from the training table was impressive.
Right.
And once we left the training table and we went back to the dorm, which was the towers, they were all kind of grouped together in those quads. And so, but it was Raymond Harris, Chico Nelson, may he
Okay.
rest in peace. I think Roger Harper. It was just a Rod Smith. And so I just remember a cluster of guys just there, and it was the first weekend back for winter quarter, so they had just come from a bowl game and was just getting ready to quarter, and so they were going to take, they said it was what's called the icebreaker party, the first party of the year. And so once we ate, we went back to the dorm, and we just got a chance to just really hang out and just listen to music. And so it was a nice little social gathering. And I was thinking like, man, this is a pretty cool party. You know what I mean? Like, this is nice. And I remember them just being so excited. Like, and these guys were pretty much redshirt freshmen, and they were so excited about the next season. And I just could recall Rod Smith in particularly just saying, I can't wait to get on the field. I can't wait to beat Michigan. And I'm thinking like, man, these guys didn't even play last year,
Right.
and they're like so excited. Just the energy itself was just like overwhelming. And it was different from, again, like when I went to Nebraska, and then as I compared it to other schools I went to. But then, like I said, it was a nice little social gathering. But when we actually got a chance to go to the actual party, I mean, it was just like, oh my God, like, what is this? And so just the camaraderie among the freshmen at that time, like I said, it was something different. And it actually ended up translating 4 years later, because those guys were seniors, because I came in and played my freshman year, myself and Robert Smith and Cedric Saunders. And so we actually were seniors the same time that they were. And that was the first time that we had won the Big Ten championship. We were co-champions in a whole bunch of years. So, and it kind of really catapulted Ohio State back to the national stage. And so it was no accident, that what I saw 4 years prior was a chemistry that ended up translating on the field.
And it's a recurring theme to the people I talk to, that is really it. And I made a point of asking that question when you got there, first day move in before the rest of the campus moves in. And that's the day everyone says, yeah, that's when I knew.
Yeah.
That's when I knew this was something special. So,
yeah, absolutely. And it's when you talk to other guys, you get a chance to leave and go play professionally and meet other guys, from the SEC, which is always going to be a point of contention when we run into those guys, and arguably who's got the best conference. But it's always a tremendous amount of respect for Ohio State. But when you start talking about just the relationships and things after playing collegiately, I mean, I think we had something unique because we don't find a lot of other teams that have stuck together, stay in contact, and have had such a close bond with each other. So we kind of realize now that we have something special, and I think it kind of continues when you look at the amount of success that they still continue to have today.
All right, so now you're playing as a freshman, and you mentioned some names of some guys: Raymond Harris, Robert Smith. You got a deep backfield.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So and I remember, as watching as a fan, like, it really doesn't seem to matter who they put in the game; they're going to gain some yards.
Right.
Now,
right.
what's that? It's working together, but it's also got to be great competition too.
Oh yeah, tremendous competition. I mean, when you think about, and I tell the story a lot of times that in my running back room over the course of 4 years, it was 7 guys sitting in there that all played in the NFL. And when you think about that, I mean, that's a huge feat for any school to be able to use that as a recruiting tool, or just to be able to boast about that particular time. And I think coming in my freshman year, it was I can't remember who the publication was, Sports Illustrated, someone, but Ohio State was ranked the #1 backfield in the country. And going into that situation was not intimidating for me at all, because, I was a competitor. And I think that's probably one of the major things about our backfields, that everybody was a competitor, and we had a tremendous amount of respect for each other and a respect and love for each other. And it was like a fraternity and just a brotherhood. And, but at the same time, I mean, it was competitive. I mean, and I'll tell the story too, sometimes that, you're on the sideline, whoever got a chance to start or was out there on the field, and, it's a physical position. You can get nicked up. And so, you might get a carry or 2 carries, and, somebody twist your ankle or somewhat, or you get your knee twisted or something, and you kind of limp back to the huddle, and you look into the sideline, kind of grimacing a little bit, and you see the next guy like buckling up his chest. Like, hey, like, you know what I mean? You need me to come get you? And it's like, you're like, no, I'm good. You know what I mean? And so it was that serious, and you always would look over and you see the next guy getting ready to come in, and you knew that if you came out the field for whatever the reason was, that you might not get back on the field. And so it was that type of competition. But like I said, we all respected each other, and I think we all had a different type of style. We all had something different that we were bringing to the table, and we all, we were very, very critical on running backs too. When we would watch guys on film and things like that, and we would say that, hey, this guy probably would never play here. And and just because of the level, the talent level that we actually had in that room, and Bobby Turner, who was the running back coach again for the San Francisco 49ers. Bree, you need to stay out of this picture. Go.
That's all right.
Bobby Turner, who was the running back coach, coached Terrell Davis and a lot about Clinton Portis, a whole bunch of really, really good guys. The running backs that were in San Francisco this year. And when I was in Denver, and obviously I was playing on the other side of the ball, but I got a chance to talk to Terrell Davis, and asked him, was like, man, what do you think about Bobby Turner? And he was like, man, like he's the best coach I ever had. And I said, yeah, because everything that he taught us, like within 2 years that he was there, kind of carried us over. We had some other coaches, but some of the drills and some of the toughness and the things and the skills that he gave us carried us over, because we learned so much from him, because he had such a huge, vast amount of experience going out to San Francisco, working with Mike Shanahan in the summers and stuff like that. So a large part of our success was due to him as well.
And you obviously had some offensive linemen in front of you too.
Oh, yeah, no question. You had, think about Alan Klein. I think about Rod Smith, Jason Winrow. Man, he rest in peace. Jack Thrush. Who am I missing? Paul Long, Lenny Harbin. I'm going back to my freshman year. Who's on the other side? Then you throw in like Corey Stringer, who came in. He was my senior year, and then I'm always kind of a little jealous of Eddie, like, because he had Corey Stringer and Orlando Pace as two booking tackles, and I think I'm missing. I'm going across the line. Somebody else that was their tackle, but it's we have some guys up front, man. And obviously, you talk about running backs and offenses, you can't get it done without the guys up front, and so those guys, and I think about Jim Coletto that was there as an offensive line coach,
right.
and just some tremendous guys up front, and we had some athletic guys. Before it was real, because in the Big Ten, I think Coop kind of changed it a little bit. They were known for that 3 yards and a cloud of dust, but we actually got some guys that were athletic up front. And so that helped out tremendously as well. But, yeah, and then you talk about the receivers that we had were just, ridiculous, man. So, yeah, we were kind of stacked back then. We always say we should have won a couple national championships, but, still
it's
sick
not
about
as easy
that.
as it sounds, right? Well, okay, so now you got this great core guys, and you see people going off the NFL here, going off the NFL there, and you realize you're getting towards the end of things. What's more in your mind? Because I've asked this question when you get to senior tackle. What's going on at that stage? You're thinking, maybe I can go here, maybe I can go there, and then suddenly realize, this is getting close to the end.
Yeah. Yeah, it's you don't really realize the magnitude of it until you really kind of look back, but it's just because you're getting prepared for the game as well. And so it's one of those things that you remember, and it's just like, man, it's kind of like, but you don't really realize, like, man, this is about to be over. At least for me, it was one of those things where it's like, man, I can't believe this 4 years has went by this quickly. And so, but it's a special time at Ohio State, and when you think about all the guys that went through that process, and then when you think about, you look at the guys as you go one by one, the guys that you actually are going out with, and this is the last time you're actually going to get a chance to play with these guys. Obviously a bowl game after that, but just the time that was spent there, it kind of puts it in perspective, and then you're moving on to the next level if you get that opportunity. But like you said, you don't know where, and you don't even know what that experience is like. And right. So, and so, like I said, looking back on it, no matter where you played professionally and how long you played, how much money you made, it still never really compares to, being at The Ohio State University. And so looking back, you can say, like, man, that moment was pretty special. And especially, you actually had that moment, if nothing else, that you can say that you spent with the guys that you came out with that were seniors that year.
And you go back to that first day in the towers, and you think, man, this is just insane. But it's gone by a lot faster than I thought.
It's gone. I mean, gone by so quickly, man. And it's like a flat because you can't really recall all the memories because you just like in that moment for the season.
Right.
But when you think about, just like it just seems like it was just like you said, we were just moving into the towers, or just on my recruiting visit. And now, we're a senior tackle and now it's all over. It's kind of an overwhelming experience a little bit because you really can't put it into context because it's just like, man, this doesn't really seem real that it's over,
Right.
And I kind of, I think, the senior game or senior night or what, I remember that pretty vividly as well. I think we played Indiana. It was our last home game. And that was pretty emotional because you get a chance to kind of run out there in front of the crowd and stuff like that. And this, the last time you'll probably play on the field. And so that was pretty special as well because you realize like, man, like I can't, as you standing in line, as your name's getting ready to get called, you like, man, I cannot believe like this is getting ready to be it.
Right.
And so I think, Ohio State is just a special place, man. And obviously we all feel like it's the best place.
Right. Right.
I mean, it's just one of those things. I mean, I was telling my uncle a couple of weeks ago, I was like, man, we're a little arrogant. Like we just feel like it's just the best place ever, man. We don't care who else, it's for a lot of different reasons that we really can't really explain. So,
well, I call it we're obnoxious in a good way.
Right.
We know what we have,
right.
we know what we were a part of, so
Yeah.
we carry that with us. But we're good about it,
Yeah.
Right,
That's right. That's right.
So now it's time to make a living out of it.
Mm-hmm.
What's that feeling, and how does that experience of being with those guys, like you said, you got guys that are NFL caliber players. You said 7 guys in your running back room are in the NFL or will be in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
How prepared are you for that, or are you even more prepared than other people are? Because you walk in the room, say in Denver, and go, you people don't quite get it.
Yeah. Yeah, so going into the NFL, just the process itself, I feel like we were just like super prepared for it. Just talking about going into the off season in the winter and just preparing for pro day or for the NFL combine. And so before the combine, I don't know if it was before the combine probably came first. And so if you got an invite for the combine, which I did in the running back room myself and Raymond Harris, that was a unique experience because, we got a chance to go, and we, of course, some other guys that were there from on our team, Jeff Coppin, Alan Klein, and I believe Cedric Saunders. I can't remember who else was there, but it was a chance for myself and Raymond to just kind of sit back and reflect a little bit because you can now, it's a different experience. And, now you're going from a brotherhood to an unknown, and then you don't know where you're going to get drafted, if you're going to get drafted, if you're going to get an actual opportunity. And really the line could just stop because, you might not actually ever get a chance to play professionally at all. And so I just remember the night before we actually was tested in the combine. I just remember myself and Raymond just sitting in the hot tub just at the hotel in Indianapolis and just kind of like reflecting just on like everything. Just, I mean, from the start to the finish, like the good, the bad, the ugly, the ups and downs, because what people also don't realize about just the process is that, you're a 16, 17, 18-year-old kid coming in and you're used to being the man on your team, where you are the guy, and to come into a situation, especially like Ohio State, where in a running back room where you got guys that's like really good and you don't always get the ball or you don't always start and, things don't go your way all the time. That was a tough time and a tough period. And so because the level of competition that's there, I think that also brings the bond together because a lot of people struggle, just with being there, staying there, especially if you're not playing or a starter consistently. And so we kind of talked about some of that night before we actually went to test in the NFL. And it was a special moment for me because it's just kind of helped us to recap and just really appreciate all that we have been through and all we have been for each other. Right. Because he and I both, we split time and, there were times that he didn't play, there were times that I didn't play. And You know, Robert Smith was there. You know, he got a lot of the carries and things like that. So so going into the NFL was a unique opportunity. And then you got to go test, and you don't know if you're gonna test well. And I thought I was gonna run like a 4.2 something. And I had a meeting the night before with a running back coach from the New England Patriots, and that at that time Bill Parcells was the head coach, and he was saying how much Bill really liked me and wanted me as a third down back, and what did I think I was going to run the next day. And so, just that whole experience was something new, because at the same time, you're used to being on one team for 4 years.
Right.
And now you're getting ready to go into an unknown, and you really don't know who's looking at you or what team you'll be a part of. And then coming from a successful program such as Ohio State, like, we're used to winning, so you go to the NFL, like, man, you might be on a team that win 2 games.
Right.
And so just, when you looking at some of the teams, you're like, man, like, you don't want to go to this place, you don't want to go to that place. And I know I didn't want to go to a cold weather team because I was more of a speed guy.
Right.
I was like, man, I don't want to go to Denver, and I don't want to go to Green Bay. And lo and behold, I ended up going to Denver. But
right.
It was a time that, again, a little anxiety as well, because you don't know, again, if this is going to be the end of the road. And then you're just going into a whole new environment. And so, when you look back and see how many guys went through that process, and, then you go fast forward to the pro day when they come to Ohio State to work you out. And for me, a lot of coaches or teams wanted me to play defensive back, which I ended up playing, all of my professional career. And that was largely because Coach Cooper had convinced them that if he were the coach, he would make me a cornerback. And so, because he tried to get me to play corner as well. And so, and that's a whole nother story. But and so a lot of teams come in working you out at different positions, which is different. I remember the Jets came in and worked me out as a corner. I think Atlanta did as well. But I was excited about the opportunity to go and be a third down back for a team, and that still didn't end up happening. I think I was a running back for the Carolina Panthers for like a week and a half, and that was it. But yeah, so just the time, just thinking about you getting ready to go forth, it was bittersweet. You had glad about the opportunity, but at the same time, it was kind of, the unknown was kind of stressful. And then you talk about the draft, man. That was a whole stressful situation in itself. So just the process of and which, again, when you look back at it in retrospect, it makes us appreciate our time together at Ohio State even more, because you didn't know how long you would play, and now you look back and be like, man, I didn't even play as long as I want to play, or I bounced around from team to team, and the experience is just completely different. And it's more of it really is a job, so yeah.
So now you transition out of the NFL, and you're thinking, I got to do something, right?
Yeah.
So when you decide what you're going to do, or it's decided for you, depending on how you will look at it, how do you take those experiences from Ohio State, and how does that affect who you are and what you do now?
Well, that's a great question. I think that when you look at, when I mentioned the level competition, and with that competition, Ohio State, and I can only speak for myself, and I know it kind of applies to other guys as well. When you got 7 guys that play in the NFL in one room, and you have one ball, and you run the I formation, so you got a fullback that never gets the ball,
right.
and you got a tailback, and so that's a tough situation, and I remember they moved Raymond to fullback at one point,
right.
and I always tease him about that, like, man, you slow, you know what I mean? But when you got myself, Carlos Snow, Robert Smith, Dante Lee, Eddie George, that's a lot of guys, man. And so they were trying their best, which is part of the reason why Coach Cooper wanted me to play corner, because he felt like I was one of the best athletes on the team. So he wanted to get me on the field. And so but when you look at the level of competition and the amount of adversity that you have to fight through if you stay there for 4 years, I think that is one of the things that makes us probably the most successful in life after football, because now we know how to kind of cope with difficult situations. We learn how to work well with others, even though we might not be the leader. And so for me, the transition was I initially because I'm a creative guy as well. So I initially had started a men's line of dress wear. And so because I was actually working with guys, the thing that I realized is that guys in the NFL had to dress up all the time, really didn't have a lot of time to go try to find stuff to wear. And then you had, guys that were kind of big that weren't the normal fit. And so I had a passion for fashion. And so I was like, man, let me start drawing. And I really started drawing and outlining and sketching things that I really want to see. I want to wear that I couldn't find. And so that led me into starting my own men's line of dress wear. And so again, with clientele that were athletes that had to have the dress wear, but didn't have a whole lot of time, but had the money and didn't have the convenience. And so that kind of started me to life after football. So, and I kind of continued a little bit of that. And that led for me from one thing to the next. And I ended up doing web design, graphic digital design. And then, I ended up really making a career out of being a web designer, because then I transitioned into, when the web really got big, I really transitioned into being a web designer and developer. But I just think, if I can really point to, one or two things, it's just the level of adversity that you go through at Ohio State and being prepared for that. And then, just the amount of diversity that you have to deal with guys that are on the team from different places. And I don't know how many times that I've been able to, I think, be successful in a situation because I'm probably more well prepared than probably the next person, because I've had such a vast amount of people that I've had to deal with. And so, and not just people of my race and ethnic background or, geographical background, but, it's people that I've had to deal with in locker rooms and that have been from all over the place. And especially when we talk about Ohio State, it really is a crash course of preparing you for life. And because the campus is so big, you have to kind of navigate yourself and learn how to be responsible. So I just think a lot of those things, man, really help and help you translate. And then, you can't really underestimate the fellowship, the brotherhood too, because there are times too that, you're going through tough times and you got that brother to call, to lean on, because you've been there with them in the trenches for 4 years.
Right.
And
right.
so, and that's, it goes back to that bond and that relationship that we built that is so special, because we kind of always look back and be like, even though I played, like my last year was 94, and it's still hard to believe like it's been that long. Because, we still keep in touch with guys, and it's like we just were together like last week or last. Right. And so that helps us through the process, and I think that kind of helps us transition as well.
Well, it's something going back to one of the initial things that you said. You went to Nebraska, and it didn't seem like a city. Lincoln, Nebraska isn't that big.
Right.
I talked to people and said, Columbus, Ohio, there's a lot of farms and stuff. There's like, no.
Nah.
It's a very diverse city. And going to Ohio State's even more so. So like you said, you get used to people from all kinds of different backgrounds. And you don't really have a choice. Which is cool. They're right there in your face. Your first class, you look around and go, okay.
Yeah.
I was talking to Tim Anderson this morning, or yesterday morning, and he's from Clyde, Ohio, which has got like 9 people in it, and he said his first class had more people in it than his whole graduating class had. It's like the first class, like one of those UVC classes, like 9,000 people in this class, So it feels that way, So that's the kind of thing you get used to. So that's impressive. And I, as I talk to people, I can talk to band members and cheerleaders and everyone, they say, it's these are people that you're with for life. I've got friends that I met, first week of school that I'm still friends with. So now I got to ask you one last thing. Because that shirt doesn't look like you had to go find that shirt. That was in the closet, right?
Oh yes, sir.
So other than, unfortunately, we don't have the spring game. That fandom, now that you're not a player on the team, but you still make time to see the games and see what's going on, and is it that, all right, Ohio State's on, I gotta watch the game?
Yeah, I mean, no question. I mean, it's you make your schedule sometimes around Ohio State game. I can't remember. My wife had something going on, and I don't think I went because she said, you know, I remember her saying to whoever she was with, like, you know, well, he couldn't come because, you know, the game's on. It's like, yeah, you know, that's right. You know, Ohio State game's on. We're watching that. And so, you know, and I don't watch like every game, you know, but if it's a national televised game, you can
Right.
rest assured I'm there, which most of them are. So it's just and now it's kind of weird, like being a fan, you know, like on the other side.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, because being a player so long, and but I always say, you know, we're like the old guys that were in the trophy cases when we used to walk past. Like, you
Right.
know, we used to look at John Brockington and Archie and Pete Johnson and all those guys and laugh like, man, those guys are old. But now we're those guys, and so now we're wearing the shirts. We're buying paraphernalia and things like that, and so it's definitely one of those things where, you know, you keep in touch with what's going on, and you try to make sure that you become aware of some of the things, some of the events. And so I've got, you know, I get a calendar of events, and because I ran track there as well, I get an opportunity, like sometime if the Big Ten track meet is on, I'm watching and cheering for
Right.
Ohio State. So and even basketball, you know, basketball's on when Ohio State plays Wisconsin, man, I'm on, you know, Wisconsin or Michigan State or Indiana, you know, like I'm glued to the TV, you know, and trying to find that game. So it's a good thing too, you know, because now, you know, you still are connected and you still feel part of the connection. And even so, more so now, you understand the breadth and of the network and the community. I mean, there have been so many times that I've been on the phone with somebody, you know, whether it's you know, paying a bill or, you know, just on something else that I've just meeting somebody just for business. And, you know, it's like, wait a minute, you Butler Benote from Ohio State? And I'm just like, yeah, you know, like that's me, you know. And it's just amazing to be able to be a part of that type of network. And you know, and last thing I'll say, one of my first times back here in St. Louis, I can't remember what year it was, but it was the game. It was a week that that Michigan lost to Appalachian State, and so I was here in St. Louis, and I remember trying to find a place to watch the game. You know, I had my Ohio State stuff on, and so I'm all the way here in St. Louis, and so I was like, let me find. Went to Buffalo Wild Wings. I found because I think it was one of the first games on the Big Ten Network.
Okay.
So I had to
Right.
find out who had the Big Ten Network. So I go into Buffalo Wild Wings way out in, I think it was Chesterfield. And I walk in and I felt like I was in Columbus. I see all this Scarlet and Gray. And I'm just like, man, are you kidding me? Like, I mean, like this is in St. Louis?
Right.
You know,
Right.
like, wow, I mean, the whole entire place was packed with Ohio State fans. And I just was like, I couldn't believe it. I'm just like, wow, this is like amazing, you know. And you would think it was an Ohio State game because they were cheering because the Michigan game
Right.
was
Right.
was was coming to a close, and man, you would think they were in Ohio State in the shoe, man, and they were just cheering and high fiving when Michigan lost, and it was just but I just couldn't believe the fan base that was there just for the first game in St. Louis, and
Right.
so that. And this was not too long ago. I mean, this was within the last 6 or 7 years.
Right.
And
Right.
so it might have been a little bit longer than that, but not too much
Not that
longer.
much. No.
Yeah, you know, so but yeah, you know, that was indicator like, man, you know, I'm a part of something like that's so much bigger than what I can even thought, especially going back to, you know, that 17-year-old kid that was thinking about not even taking a visit to Ohio State,
Right.
you know, so all the way back in the same place. And now I see this whole fanfare and group of guys and women that are fans and connected to Ohio State. So it's a great blessing, man. It's a great privilege to be a part of this
Well,
connection as well.
after that, I don't think I have anything else to ask. We got the excitement and we got beat Michigan. So that's two things we put together at the same time. So I appreciate
That's
you doing this. You know,
no
it's
problem.
always great talking to you guys and guys that actually get it and can get it to where the rest of us can get it. So I appreciate you
Yes.
being here. All right.
Well, thanks, man. And anytime, man, let me know. Anytime, I'll love to be on with you doing
All right.
anything. So God
Okay.
bless you.